Mr. Chris Wolf.
What is happening, Seach?
Respect.
Likewise.
So,
Mutual.
I always tell my guests, and one of the great things about having musicians as friends and peers is the first thing he gave me was audio advice on my podcast audio. And he's correct, the podcast, but I'm still figuring it out. So, all right. So I've thought about Chris Wolf. First off, I was like,
could have said, man, that show sucks. You know what? I'm just going to check out. See you, dude.
well, I'm just happy you watched it, man. A lot of people
I watched, I'm on my fourth one.
Which was your favorite?
Well, I mean, they're all different, so I can't pick a favorite. But I'm about halfway through the one with the Darbro fellow.
Yeah.
Do I need to move out closer?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just heeding your own advice there.
Sure.
Yeah.
The Darbro guy, I can't remember.
Steve. Yeah, he's
Steve.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Interesting story. I'm only about halfway. Probably not even halfway. O'Grady.
Yeah.
I was connected with him on Facebook. Didn't even know it.
Yeah.
But I looked him up, and that was an interesting conversation. And as an older dude, some of the
What?
hell yeah, some of this.
Are you telling me that you ain't one of them spring chickens? You're more one of them.
I ain't even close to a spring chicken. I'm like broiled chicken.
Yeah. You're a chicken that needs springs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the funny things. The first line when I thought of Chris Wolf being on the podcast, other than who the fuck is that guy, right, was I was going to say, remember when we used to talk about the old boys?
The old boys.
Yeah, like when we were young, it's like old boy out in the
field.
Or,
oh yeah.
Well, look at us now.
You were talking about me and you.
No, look at us now, man. We're them.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. and so like Jeremiah, I've known him, but I don't really know him. Just like you. Mm-hmm. I've known you for a long time, but I don't really know you. We've never really sat down, just two of us, and rapped about.
Which is going to go into one of the topics of the podcast that I want to get into about artists and that sort of familiarity and that inability to really talk about things because we all sort of see ourselves as this precious little community because we're all sort of the misfits. You know how a lot of times in my shows I'd be like, love to my misfits, right? My problem is a lot of times misfittery gets confused with fuckery. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's the other thing too with the music community. I mean, it's just a very little small speck in just Indianapolis or central Indiana or central southern Indiana. It's just a tiny little speck of the humanity that's here.
We don't even move the needle.
No, not even touch it. And for the most part, most people don't give a shit about some guy singing original songs.
They're almost like, oh, look how cute they are over there.
Right.
And yeah, of course, society needs them, but I got a fucking warehouse shift, to get to.
Right.
All right. So that actually, I was going to talk about current events first with you, but this is going to lead into the overarching topic I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
Which is this, because you brought up the artistic community. One of the biggest problems that I ever had when I got into the arts was that I love my misfits. Love them to death. When I see some dude going on stage painted whatever and taking a poop on stage or whatever his little artistic freaky thing is, man, sign me up every day, for an experience like that, because that's humanity. My problem is I think that, especially in the modern era, there has been a loss of that responsibility to society. And now it's just kind of like this screaming, you get up there, you say your thing, and then you disappear into the shadows, and going back to, I'd say the 60s, which is why I'm talking about us old boys, because we still remember, these times. It's a little before my time, but, my parents and all that. I think that really started that where, you got these really just kind of dopey guys and girls, and they had these wonderful ideas, and everybody could say, I can find no problem with that. Free love, free expression, all of this. But then they just turned out to be these horrible narcissistic scumbags, right? Or they were just wanting to scream to the world, but didn't want to wake up the next morning and go to the homeless shelter to serve soup. Am I wrong in thinking that that's one of the reasons why protests nowadays, because protest is typically amongst creative people, people that have hearts and things like this. Do you think I'm wrong in that? because I don't see anything from their side except anger, and it's almost like this powerlessness, you know. So that's the first subject for you.
So what's the question?
The question is, do people who protest do through art or through social protest, you know, people that are saying we need to change the world, do they have any right to say it because they don't really add to the solution? They just kind of pop their head up and then go back down,
Okay.
right?
I find okay, it's all cyclical.
Yeah.
Now I'm six. I'll be six. There's Smudge.
Another protester.
I'm six. I'll be 67.
Well, one quick second, Chris. Smudgy, no. You're 60 what now?
I'll be 67 in May.
Yeah.
So I had my rebellious period. I had my protest period. Mm-hmm. I went to D.C. My wife, my brother, and I, we marched on D.C. Protesting the Iraq War. Mm-hmm. I talked to people. I tried to convince them to wake up. That there, you know, there's mostly corruption out there, and
So much corruption. That's the number one problem of the world right now, in my
absolutely.
opinion.
And you know what? Like you said before, I didn't even move the needle.
Right.
Nobody gives a shit. Everybody's, oh, I got to get my new Nike tennis shoes. Yeah. Oh, have you seen the new flat screen TVs?
Which is that selfishness I'm talking about. It's like, why do you want to change the world if you're benefiting so much from it? I mean,
Right.
are you just kind of like this needy voice in the hallway? I don't. It's just weird to me because, you know, I was raised with like activism as action. You know, I worked voting booths, and you know, and then I went into my anarchist phase after like kind of Obama Bush fuckery, that whole period. And that's when I was like, I'll punch a fucking cop, or I'll blow. Like I just went really down there because it was like everything's wrong, you know.
And it remains wrong. And I don't see a fix to it, to be honest. There's too many people with their heels dug in, and back in my 50s and late 40s and early 50s. I read constantly and I researched and you know what set it off?
What's that?
9/11.
Yeah. Oh shit, fire.
I was like, this seems like the biggest crock of bullshit.
Let's go, Chris Wolf.
And they want me to just buy it all. And so
you're talking to a guy, by the way, that has two people holding hands tattooed when they jumped off the top of the Trade Center. I mean, it was a big deal, man.
It was a big deal. And what has happened? Not a fucking thing.
More false flags. It's almost like every major event.
We got the military industrial complex.
Thanks,
rich,
Eisenhower.
You know, they're rich.
Well, I was talking to Sam O'Grady, and this will be quick because I'm actually.
Go ahead.
I'm loving what you're transmitting. But I was talking to Sam, and I said, in my experience as a world traveler and as an American, what I've noticed big time is that politicians have no power anymore, and it's a worldwide mafia. And I think that's why the corruption is so big, because I've seen whole cities in Europe, I said in my last podcast, that are basically just built like Miami was on Coke money. And there's just whole systems of governance, and it all just leads back to the mafia boys.
Yeah, and I don't argue with that. That's the most likely source of it. There's also, when you say mafia guys, that connotates, you know, Tony Soprano, and
I'm talking Russian, I'm talking Japanese.
That's what
cartel.
Right. When people hear mafia, they think of Ray Liotta.
Yeah, give me a pizza pie.
Yeah, but it's much deeper than that, and
it's entrenched, and it's almost, I believe, the system of the world now, where you get the people in the suits on TV and the marble buildings in D.C. and shit, and they just report back to the dudes that are like, oh, you need $2 trillion? No problem. I'll talk to Dubai or China or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, too, is nowadays, you know, I mean, I remember applying for a mortgage for $60,000 to build my house. I built it myself with my own hands. And I wanted $60,000, and man, they put me through the fucking ringer, and they wanted to know all my income, and they wanted to know how long it was going to take. I mean, I had to bring blueprints and shit. And
Well, that's why I'm really kind of joyous that you're here because so many artists don't have that kind of meat and potatoes, feel the dirt under your feet kind of mentality. Whereas you, first and foremost, I'd see Chris Wolf as like, first off, like a man. Like you take care of yours, you work hard, you do all this, you take care of other people, and yet you still give to society and stuff, even if it's just an open mic talking to younger people. And that's what I respect so much about you. Is that you're not lost that we should all just like take our clothes off and say it's peace.
well, that's thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
That's very kind. And what I learned from all those years of being so enraged about the corruption and the lies and the politicians and the people buying one side or the other and then arguing for it.
Yeah, it's like throwing one piece of meat into a Shark Tank.
And I went through all that, and at the end, I mean, at one day, I don't even know when it was. I just was like, none of this fucking matters because nobody cares.
Yeah.
Everybody's entrenched in their own mindset. One or two people might go, "Oh, really?" and then look into it themselves, but they don't need me. They'd finally come across that in their own.
Well,
on their own.
but as an anarchist libertarian, and I say libertarian just because you got to have somebody that says, okay, this is the police force or some shit. This is the military. But like I've noticed so much of it being just comfort. And I hate that because I'm a big Dune fan. And Frank Herbert said when humanity dies is when they've become too comfortable to need to evolve. And I believe that like 100%. But the comfort in an affluent society like America, and by comfort, I mean, I know times still are hard for a lot of people, but you got to have a global perspective on a lot of what America is. And I'm proud that people are comfortable because America worked hard to be the greatest motherfucking country I believe to ever exist, right? But I see it just kind of like squabbling kids yelling at dad because they didn't buy him the right first car, sort of a mentality. And I hate that because we're better than that, people. We really are. Like if you're a protester or an agitator, don't shop at Walmart. It's like they're all filming these protests on iPhones, and it's like you motherfuckers.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And now I understand why the 1950s boys punched hippies. It wasn't because they didn't like their hair. It was kind of like you dumbass sucker. And I love you here because I can say that, and you're not instantly like whoa. When you and I were kids, how many times did you hear this? Oh, you piece of shit! You're nothing. Get out of my way. And now it's all, oh, you're the most wonderful creation that ever came out of God's, mouth. That was a lot, I know.
I've never heard either one of those things when I was a kid. I really didn't. I grew up in a blue collar, middle class, Brady Bunch thing. I mean, we didn't have the money that the Bradys had, but but that's what my mom kind of patterned us after. And
so safe, but maybe would you say like harmless? Like there wasn't a lot of.
There was no danger.
No danger.
No danger.
That's awesome.
Riding my bike around till 11 o'clock at night and not worrying about a thing.
Yeah.
Riding my bike to. I grew up on the west side of Indianapolis. I would ride my bike to the track.
Yeah.
And skip school, hang out at the Coke field.
And I bet you never once worried about a stray bullet.
Nope, not a stray bullet, not a fight.
Yeah.
I didn't worry about somebody getting pissed off and hit a drunk.
Yeah.
I didn't even lock my bike.
Yeah.
We just parked them.
Yeah.
And came back and they were still there.
Well, and isn't that so wild? Because like somebody from my son's generation would probably look at you and kind of go, well, that all sounds really nice and good, sir. But what about like help me, And like, so how do we do that? So like,
That's what I said. That's what I said. I don't think there's the toothpaste is out of the tube.
Can I tell a quick story?
Sure.
I was invited by this incredibly wildly self-destructive person that was in the music scene that has since just disappeared, like so many do, to play this anarchist show in Crawfordsville, Indiana. And it was in a dilapidated house that they'd probably just squatted in. And there was maybe like 12 people at the show.
Is it somebody I would know?
We'll talk after the show.
Okay.
But, all the patched up blue jeans guys with their, anti-government shit. And so anyways, I'm sitting there and I was tired and I had been gigging in some of the shittiest gigs I've ever gigged in my life. But, you show up and I looked at them all, these minds kind of full of mush. And I said, if you guys really want to be anarchists and if you really want to change the world, I got sad news for you. You're going to have to learn how to shoot a rifle. 1, 2, and I just went into the show. But I literally meant it, because even these people who are living on the edge of society, I mean, literally in an abandoned house, they've got their family, these misfits, loved them, loved them. But they're sitting there watching a show. Go out. I mean, you got to go to D.C. with torches and pitchforks.
If you think that'll work,
Yeah,
I don't think it will. It's
too many tanks.
they're just so entrenched in their own world, and the whole politics thing and corruption. I mean, I've watched it since my first vote in 1980. Yeah. When I first voted in 1980, the first time I voted for Jimmy Carter and Reagan won.
Yep.
I voted for Jimmy Carter only because I came from a blue-collar union household.
He's a peanut farmer. And
my dad said, if you're going to be a union man, you have to vote blue because they take care. And at the time, that was the way it was.
Yeah. Which, oddly enough, is kind of a form of corruption.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Vote for this guy because he'll take care of the unions.
Absolutely, because the union's giving them money,
and then shoving them off to casinos,
which I'm paying in my dues and shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, they got a percentage of my check. The union did.
Okay.
I didn't get a vote on which politician give it to or anything, but I didn't know. I was just a kid. I was trying to find a job, provide for my family, and I didn't even think about retirement or anything.
You were just happy to have enough on the weekend to maybe go out with your girl after a long week.
I loved my wife, and she wanted kids, and so I wanted her to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, isn't that a real insidious little method of societal control, right? It's like, maybe it's just my grandfather and me or something, but like, our whole family ideology was nobody fucking has a right to touch my pot of money. You know what I mean? And so whether it be a union or whether it be taxes, our whole family was like, put it in gold and silver, put it in a sock, and put it in the fucking backyard because they're coming.
You did that now,
right? But it was all like they're going to come for it. So my whole thing was have enough like in treasure chests somewhere. When my grandfather died, I found 8 safety deposit boxes from here to fucking Missouri in his name.
Really?
Yeah, with silver, gold, bearer bonds. Yeah, and that all went to family. Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. It's just a weird way of looking at like, why do you work so much if half of it's just going to some dude that says, "Hey, trust me." I never got that.
Right.
Sorry, I tend to ramble. But.
Oh, this is Shackles Ramble.
It sounds like a Zeppelin track. No. Do you feel? Let's try this. Because I know you have a heart, and I know, that you want people to not suffer, right?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Which is almost kind of a prerequisite for being a guest on this show. Like, I ain't going to be talking to some fucking guy that sells insurance to grandma, So do you think that all of that money that was taken from your union dues, and do you think that any portion of the taxes that you've paid in life, be it at the gas pump or be it income or sales, do you think any of that has been used well?
I can't argue that it hasn't. I'm sure it has. I mean, I got roads. Some of them are pretty shitty, but I got roads to drive on and stuff. But
for the betterment of like the conflicts amongst people, not just infrastructure.
No. I think that if anything, it helps fuel the conflict. Whichever
$8 billion in Minnesota.
I know whichever party's in power. They just corrupt the system in their favor.
Yeah.
And that's what I was getting at is in 1980, I watched Carter lose. Reagan did what he did. I wasn't really paying that much attention.
Yeah. I
just knew that everybody that was union hated Reagan.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention to his accomplishments or anything. And I look back and I think, I should have been more objective and see what he said, see what he did. Looking back, he brought down the wall of Berlin. He did some fantastic things. There was also Iran-Contra. So you can't just say, oh, Biden is totally corrupt and everybody with him was. Trump is totally corrupt and everybody with him is. Sure, there's corruption. They do some shitty things, but every bit of government does bad things and good things.
Yeah. Well, when I was younger, I mean, there's been corruption since the fucking Roman Senate, Julius Caesar and shit, So,
Exactly.
and that's one of the things as an anarchist I always say to people. I'm like, y'all been voting for people for like 4,000 fucking years. How's that working out for you?
Right.
Let's try something a little different. But at least in the day before, like, do you remember the times where it'd be like, you would vote for somebody to go to the Senate because you had a real job and you just expected them to do their fucking thing and keep the lights on,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it wasn't like, I'm on TV now and I'm the voice for an entire demographic. It's like, shut your pie hole, dude. Like, you're there to do the bare minimum of shit.
And get elected again next time.
Or not, but like, I'm busy. Like, I'm running a ball bearing factory and I got 500 employees and fucking shit. So since you're kind of inept, but you talk a good game here. There you go, bub. And like this whole like glamorization and celebratization, if that's a word, of the politician, I think that's one of the most dangerous new trends. And it started with JFK probably.
Yeah, but
Isn't he such a young, sexy guy? You remember all the bullshit
yeah,
around him.
but that's the thing that history doesn't show. Half the country hated JFK.
My grandfather's a family story. He threw a shoe and broke the TV set when he gave a speech.
Yeah. And a lot of it was because he was Catholic, which, today,
It seems so trivial, right?
right, people are converting to Catholicism all the time, and nobody gives a shit. But at the time, it was be like Mondami at New York.
That's a great parallel. That's an incredible insight, man. Like, I didn't even think about something like that. Yeah.
So people just pick and choose where they're going to throw their outrage. But like
Remember,
you said,
30 years before JFK, there were still Irish need not apply signs in the
Oh,
windows.
sure.
Like, a lot of people forget how
sure.
hated the
Sure.
Irish were. Yeah.
and I am 25% Irish,
Yeah.
and I'm 50% Slavic.
Okay.
And
So you got both sides pretty damn good.
yeah, and then I got some German on my grandfather's something. So German Irish
Yeah.
married, and back then, that was scandalous.
Of course.
But
Shit, when my mom got a divorce, she had to write a letter to the Vatican. She had to get a Vatican approval for a divorce.
yeah, Catholic. Yeah, I was raised Catholic.
They're hardcore. My wife works at a Catholic church right now. And,
yeah?
she came back. She's used to like the Greek Orthodox experience over in Europe, and she was like, "Why are they all so serious?" And I'm like, "Honey, you have no idea."
Well, Catholics are only serious when they're begging for money.
Yeah.
And then they're having bingo and drinking and
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and it's like she said, these women. Well, I'm not going to talk about her job on.
yeah. We probably shouldn't.
All right, so there's so much, and for me, I don't believe in government. Like I'm really easy peasy when I talk to it. It's like, what did you expect? It's like giving a flamethrower and your debit card to a fucking 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Because obviously human nature has proven enough that nobody can be trusted, right? Which is why I want to find solutions. All right, real quick on that, because I felt like we were just kind of complaining about politicians again. Let's go to current events because I love this. I'm old school enough and was raised by the old boys enough. My grandfather, a World War II guy, the Korea boys that used to hang out at the diner and shit that I would go to with my grandfather, to just absolutely love watching Europe right now. Because I remember growing up going, the goddamn United Nations, what the fuck are we doing there? Like, why do we care about Europe, right? And there's this whole, again, almost like the artists, right? This spoiled expectation, like from Europe, that they can just take literally trillions of dollars for free from Big Daddy America and then go, but America, they're such dumbasses. And I just, even though I'm not supporting a lot of what Trump is doing right now, I just love watching them go, oh, wait a second. And then they kind of check their pocket and they got a nickel in a fucking wrapper. Right. And that's why I say I'm so old school, because I love the Europeans, but they have become pretty ineffectual and just fucking idiotic. You get all this money so you can like support research to see if gerbils can fucking paraglide in the Alps. And then somebody goes off. What do you think? I mean, do you think that there's this do you think America is going to be involved in Europe as much as we have been since the fall of the Berlin Wall?
Well, I'm not real well versed on international politics, but keep up a little bit. And it seems like Trump is trying to insert himself into that.
Into international politics?
Into, I mean, he just gave a speech saying Europe is a mess and it's falling apart and all. And it may or may not be. I'm not there. I got no experience firsthand.
From my perspective, I'd actually agree with him.
But yeah. So the question is, what do I think that?
Do you think that the amount of American involvement that we've all seen with NATO and the UN and USAID, all the aid packages we send around the world, do you think that that's going to be permanently now going down? Whereas for 50 years, it's just been. I mean, there is no NATO without America. I mean, NATO pays like 75%.
Well, here's the thing. I know people that were going to die when Trump got elected the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And they lived 4 years. And then I know people that were going to die when Biden was president. And they lived. And now, so Trump is doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
We're all going to live. He's not going to kill everybody and all that. But in 4 years, there'll be somebody else, and he'll have a different agenda. So do I think they're going to stop giving American taxpayer money to other nations and stuff?
But
it's going to be like this.
But do you think they deserve it? I mean, I guess that's the question.
I don't think they deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, why is Germany getting like billions? Why does whatever country why?
Yeah, well, that's a different question.
I mean,
I think they deserve it?
They've been sitting around twiddling their thumbs for like 50 fucking years, and they still don't have energy independence. They have all these wonderful utopian cities and shit, but they're run simply because they just.
Didn't they try windmills and then they took them all down or something because it was not effective? Yeah, I don't know.
It's just so funny to me because, I'm not a believer in bullies, right? I hate that shit. And, for me, everybody would just get along. That's like my just general perspective. But we're living in one of the most strong-arm periods in international politics. We've got Beijing, we've got Putin, and then you've got Donald Trump, who's finally, maybe for the first time, kind of going, you guys might want to look over the yaw, because these guys are some bad motherfuckers. I mean, Putin's killing, 30,000 a month in a war? And I don't know. It's just so weird to me to see people who just don't understand that sometimes, you got to put big boy pants on. Would you agree at least maybe that there is a time where America has to kind of exert a little bit of hey, if you're going to suckle at the tit, you kind of...
Well, if you have military, then and you don't, then what's the point in the military?
Bravo. Yeah.
Unless you just put them all the way around the borders and just go, don't come in here, or you're going to get it.
Isolationism.
Yeah, isolationism, which isn't good either. Nah. And you got to have international trade, in my opinion, because there's things we can't make here or grow here. Mm-hmm. It grows in other places. So you got to have some collaboration and some compromise among everybody. And some people, you say you don't like bullies. A bully is somebody who will not compromise.
Yeah.
And I think that eventually you're going to have to step in when one of your compromising partners is getting pushed around by a bully.
Yeah.
And that's just like if somebody walked in here right now and started pushing me around, you would step up and go, "Look, you can't do this."
No, they'd be right through this fucking glass table.
And you'd punch him in the mouth if it came to it.
Yeah.
But
first off, if they just even came in my house.
Yeah. Well, yeah. but a lot of times you would just have to say, "Shut the fuck up, dude."
Did it almost every gig.
I know. And then all it took was some discussion and you could end it.
Yeah.
So it's that what? I don't know why anybody would want that job in the first place unless you knew you were going to get rich off of it,
right?
Through corruption,
right? And that's one of the things Sammy said last podcast that I love so much is he said it's just so obvious now. It's just so obvious now. You used to be able to whatever, but the whole thing. And then we can get off of international stuff because you said that you didn't really feel like you could speak to it. But it's almost like the scales have been like this for so long. Where American money and American military, the classic policeman of the world idea. Has been like this for so long that when it actually is coming back to this, everybody's losing their shit.
Right.
And I don't understand. I don't care how far left progressive you are, right? Like you have to at least understand that you can't just throw money into fires, right?
Right, right.
And so that's the thing I always have so much with the beloved leftist artist friends that I have is because it's like, no, this is normal. Where you're sharing the burden and I'm sharing the burden. That's coexistence.
Right.
So,
Right. Well, but it goes back so far. Like I told you, I was born in the late 50s. So when I was in junior high school, especially,
I'm listening. I'm just going to make sure the camera's still going.
okay,
Go for it.
the Vietnam War was still. We're going to end it soon. We're winning.
Yeah.
And
The 1970s comes around. Yeah.
but there was still the draft.
Oh yeah, I talked
And-
to my son about that last night.
And I was going to get a draft number in
Yeah.
just a couple of years.
Talk about puckering an asshole.
And I'm telling you, I've got an uncle that was over there. He doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I've met some other guys that have been over there. Some of them will talk about it, and it was hell.
My neighbor across the street, I've known the guy 10 years. He was spec ops and he's never once even mentioned the 60s, much less the war.
Right. Because it's so devastating. They were kids. You know, the average age was like 19 or something. So I was scared to death. And then 74, 75, I think, they ended the draft.
Yeah.
They tucked tail and got
The helicopter went off the embassy in Saigon.
Yep, and it was over, as far as America was concerned, and it pretty much went away on TV.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing is that was the
Cronkite.
first,
Yeah.
that was the first war on TV. You
The
know,
war is over, says Mr. Cronkite.
and I was just a kid walking in the living room when my dad was watching Walter Cronkite and Chet Brinkley, and they were showing these kids getting carried into a helicopter all bloody and shit. And
but showing the blood, like
absolutely.
Yeah.
And here I am, a 13-year-old kid going, this is what I got to look forward to? I mean, I was worried.
Yeah.
And when it finally ended and they stopped the draft, they said, no more selective service. You don't have to sign up anymore. Man, I was so relieved.
And little did you know that all of that anxiety and stress was then just going to be funneled into the false flags and all the bullshit in the
Right.
next 30 years. You know, these 9/11s and these fucking Wacos and all this fucking
Right.
shit. And it's almost like they decided that I had a theory that I said to Jeremiah quickly, and it's that, the one thing that would prevent people who want to really control the world is America. But more particularly, they had to just stamp out the World War II boys. Because the World War II guys came back after having knifed a dude in the eye in the Ardennes forest, and they just wanted to go home, have the picket fence, shit out a couple kids, and have a chicken pot pie. And they wanted to start a business, and they just wanted no problems. But it's really hard.
Except the black ones.
Well, of course, we can get into race if you want. 'Cause
No, but I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
The 50s were idyllic for some.
Yeah.
Even if you had to go to war, but there was still a lot of fucking evil.
Let's hold that thought
Okay.
because I wasn't even really talking race, but it definitely comes up when you bring up the 50s. But I'm just saying, I feel like the powers that be had to kind of like take away the confidence of your average, because even African American people or other people, just people around the world in those days just had a little bit more confidence. An Italian guy comes to America, he strides off the boat and he starts up a laundry shop, or so. There was just a lot more like, I am an individual and I'm going to be proudly marching without somebody telling me what I can do. Does that at least resonate?
Sure.
Okay. And so when I see people screaming nowadays about all these things, it's like, I just, the key word I keep going back to is powerlessness. There's this engineered powerlessness that I didn't feel from my grandfather's generation. Make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the same time, you feel like there's powerlessness now.
Yeah.
But you didn't feel like, well, I felt like it was back then too, because I watched JFK get shot. I was 8 years old, 7 years old. I remember the JFK or Robert Kennedy Jr., his son, standing there at attention,
Yeah.
black and white TV. I remember all that shit. I
When
remember.
Jackie straightening his coat.
Yeah, I remember. I remember Martin Luther King getting shot. I remember RFK getting shot. I remember. I mean, it was out of control.
Did you see Bobby Kennedy, the guy that's the health guy now under Trump, saying that he believed that Bobby was shot by the policeman behind him?
Well, I've looked into all that conspiracy. You know, I used to immerse myself in conspiracy.
It's
man.
fun, isn't it?
It is. I love a good conspiracy. You're never going to prove it or convince people one way or the other, but if people who think that there are no conspiracies are
Well, let's have some fun then. You had 9/11, okay? It was so hard to talk about 9/11 when it happened, right?
It still can be.
Right. And I, in my youth, I had served in various ways that we don't need to go into. But, I considered myself Johnny Patriot, right? And it was like, I was America first. I'll die for my country because I believe even though it's flawed, it's the best chance for humanity and all that. I was that guy. And then the guy that you meet 20 whatever years later is the guy that's saying, like, burn it all fucking down and let's start putting ropes on trees for these politicians, right? And so the shift of that started for me with Waco, right?
Yep.
Because I saw the new big boy ATF trying to prove themselves with the FBI slaughtering children, right? Weird story. When I was on tour with the Twitchy Fucks, we stopped into Waco, Texas, and I walked up to the Branch Davidian place, and they were creepy as I'm telling you. But they were like, "Do you want to come in?" I was like, "No, no, no." And they're like, "Well, do you know where you're standing?" I said, "Where?" And they said, "You're standing where the school bus was underground, where the children burned alive." And I went, "God, right." But that's when I thought, okay, the government no longer has any interest in anything other than just itself, the self-perpetuating monster. That and Ruby Ridge,
Right.
and
At Ruby Ridge. But how many survivors were there at Waco?
I think like maybe 6 or 8, something like that.
And I can't even remember how many died.
Yeah.
And what happened? Not a fucking thing.
Remember Janet Reno? What
Reno,
a
yeah.
fucking piece of shit. Sorry, Chris.
No. Yeah, I agree.
She's sitting there looking at the cameras like she's like. They could have scooped up David Koresh at the diner down the road.
Right. He was in town all the time.
Right.
Right.
If they were
No.
worried about the kids.
Right.
Okay, so that's the conspiracy thing, but I want to jump to 9/11 because I've got a really, really bold conspiracy theory that a lot of people, even my weird friends, look at me like, "What the fuck, Seach?"
Yeah, you can't phase me.
Okay.
Lay it on me.
Did you know how much the landlord of 9/11 was facing in
Oh, yeah.
asbestos abasement
removal.
costs?
Oh, yeah. Yep. And he took out a policy and he sued because it was 2 events, because it was 2 planes, and he got paid for each building millions of dollars. And then the other conspiracy that nobody talks about is that Building 7 will not go away, will it? And people are like, "Oh, it was the fires." Did you watch that building collapse? I'm not buying it. I am not buying it.
I love that just for your bravery because there's a lot of people in the world who won't touch
I
things
know.
like this. But 9/11 was legitimately for me the moment where I stopped considering myself an American. And as an anarchist, I'll live in this country and reap the benefits of it because where else am I going to go? Live with the fishies in the fucking Mediterranean, right? I got to
Right.
put my ass somewhere. But like I said, I went from Johnny Patriot through the Clinton era, all that bullshit, and then 9/11. And when 9/11 happened, I believed it. And I ain't no fucking optimist. Like, I'm a cynical son of a bitch. But when I saw that, I was like, we got to go to war.
I did too. That's a different subject
Go ahead.
because the minute that all happened, people were going, "We got to go to war," and we went to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This, I was with you. I woke up at that time and I was like, what are we doing in Afghanistan? They were all Saudis on that plane, and that was the point where I went from, oh, you got to vote Democrat if you're a union man,
Yeah.
to
Well,
you don't trust any of these guys.
To be fair, that is where the Mujahideen were being trained, and that is where Osama bin Laden had a lot of his power structure and stuff. So that's how they
And the
justify.
Mujahideen was started by the CIA.
Well, have you seen the picture of Donald Rumsfeld shaking hands with Osama
I
back
know.
in the day?
I know.
Yeah, it's almost tricky, isn't it?
It's the whole thing. I mean, but you said it, that I'm brave in saying that. There's people out there that have no idea what we're talking about at all.
Yeah.
And it's just like, everybody either loves or hates Bill Clinton, and the ones that hate him will say, "Well, he got a blowjob in the Oval
What a
Office."
trivial, petty little fuck. I mean,
When-
I hate the guy because he's murdered like 30 people.
Right. The worst thing was Waco and
Vince
Ruby
Foster
Ridge
and-
and all the dead bodies.
Well,
and
how about this?
Mena, Arkansas, and the cocaine smuggling and
Dude, he used to use the Little Rock Sheriff's Department to go pick up chicks at the bars and bring them back to the governor's mansion. Dude was a sleazy piece of shit since day one.
exactly. And now he's still loved by a portion of the country.
How about this as a Union boy, right? I mean, you want to talk destruction that Clinton caused on this country, man. What about NAFTA?
NAFTA.
I mean,
Exactly.
that's like a nuclear bomb. Much,
Exactly.
Fuck Monica Lewinsky and whatever freak goes on.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that dude destroyed the middle class.
That should just be a sidebar. Everything else should be right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, NAFTA was. NAFTA still to this day.
I remember when I was I was a apprentice carpenter, and everybody had "Buy American"
Yeah.
on bumper stickers on their cars. There's a local guy named Bill Wilson that used to be like the troubadour, Indianapolis's troubadour. He had a small blip with fame, and then it went away. But
Is he on Q95 from time to time?
no. This was way before that.
Okay.
And he had a song called
I'm thinking of the King Wilson. Anyway, go ahead.
Dave the King Wilson.
Yeah.
No, nothing. No, Bill Wilson died several years ago, but he had a song called "Made in the USA," and that was one of the songs that he had several great songs, but that was one of the songs that I was like, "Yeah, I like this guy," and he was doing it from the heart. He meant, it had lines like, "So drive your Toyota, watch your Motorola, ride around in your Honda too,"
Yeah.
and slamming people buying those vehicles and stuff. Now we're we're Trump, I guess. I don't know, whoever. Somebody is trying to get him to come back.
Yeah.
And they slowly are. But it's like you said, NAFTA was the bomb that blew up. I remember Bloomington, Indiana used to make RCA televisions.
Yeah.
And I know
Whirlpool in Evansville. The Whirlpool factory.
Yes. And I remember friends that had their parents working at the RCA plant.
Great jobs.
And yeah, good hardworking people making a decent living. And
Got
they
two cars.
Yeah. And then they took all those jobs and said, we're just going to send them to Mexico and we're going to become a service industry.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
Well, it worked out great for the tech people in Wall Street.
Exactly. And now we got people driving Ubers and DoorDash. And
Right. It's just so weird, and I guess that's one of the really nice, real nice things about having a more seasoned guest on today, right? Because I was my grandfather's greatest grandkid, so my dad was a piece of shit demon, right? So like my dad was nowhere in my world. So my example of a person was my grandfather. Put holes in a bunch of Germans, came back, became semi-successful, like we're just talking about, and I miss I miss the time where you could disagree and you could still think your government had flaws, but you separated that from the country. And I know that sounds dreamy, but it was real. You would have a Democrat, and let's be fair, the Democrats of the 60s, 50s, 70s are like a foreign species from modern day Democrats, right?
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get off of politics. Let's talk about our love. Music and the creative people, because, with this podcast, I'm coming across kind of serious at times, but me as that crazy dude.
And you, and till now, I've never portrayed my personal thoughts about.
Yeah, right.
Well,
we're almost scared to, right?
Yeah, but also, like I said, I've discovered that it doesn't make any difference. All I'm going to do is piss off the people that don't agree with me, and have the people that agree with me dig their heels in. And what difference am I making? None. That's not changing shit.
You listened to the O'Grady one, where we were trying to solve the problems in the world, and
I did.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah,
we got 3 of them. We did.
Well, see, and now we've gotten to the point of AI, and you have to consider. You were talking. I remember you talking about don't you think that it's dangerous to the arts? I think the arts are already pretty much AI. The Britney Spears and the Lady Gagas and all that. Oh, they may be making their own shit, but they've got producers and shit going in that's going, oh, well, this rhythm right here is really attractive to the preteen girls, and that's
They're actually licensing their voices.
right,
And they're making hundreds of thousands just in licensing agreements so AI can make a song that sounds like Taylor Swift's voice.
right. I know, but
What in the holy hell?
well, and that's the thing is the masses all gobble it up, and for the threat to the arts, it's already done. There are people, a small demographic that look for that Americana band playing at the Vogue,
And most of them are also artists.
right? And so I was having a discussion. I was on a podcast recently with a guy named Scott Eckert. He owns Pilgrimage Winery
Yeah, I know that
in
name.
Cambridge City.
Okay.
Great artist, wine grower, former Air Force pilot, and his wife was too.
Hell,
And
hell of a resume on that
yeah,
artist.
and now he has a farm down there. He grows his own grapes, makes table wines. But we were on the podcast talking about AI, and the discussion led to AI is going to lead to the only true forms of art are going to remaining are the original band playing in some shithole bar, the stand-up comedian, the artist who paints. Sure, you can get on AI and I heard you talking about make an armadillo, but everybody can look at it and go, that's AI.
Well, now,
Now, you're right.
I mean, give them like a year or two.
So,
that shit's going to be
where
indistinguishable.
do you think AI is headed?
So I have to do. AI for me was actually the origin of this podcast because I wanted to talk to just real human beings, not experts and not the big fucking names or whatever, and just say like, how are we all going to exist as human beings once AI kind of takes away all of those pressures of, you have to go to a job every day to feed your kids and all of this. So for me, AI has to be first off labeled correctly. I'm not talking about a tool that you can just push a button and it creates a picture or something. I'm talking about like a real sentient living creature that like says, I can now control the world and you guys can just do whatever you want. When it comes to AI as the tool that people can use, that's what we're dealing with now.
Right. Openly for the common folks.
Correct. I believe that it has to be 100% labeled. And I don't see why that's such a big deal to a lot of people. But if I'm watching a commercial for a drug company and I've got an AI woman saying, "Oh, my womb feels so much healthier now." Fuck you. Like, I'm not going to have a non-human being selling me a fucking pill. And so I got to know. Kind of like no animals were harmed in the filming of this
actor
movie.
portrayal on these drug ads.
And the fact that wasn't agreed to on day one makes me twitchy. Right? And if I'm listening to a song on Spotify, I want 1, 2, this is an AI song. You got to tell me. And that's why I love Bandcamp, what they just released their thing.
Yeah.
So
But who uses Bandcamp? I mean, seriously.
desperate artists that are doing it for the love of it.
And it's such a small demographic. I mean, it's the speck we've been talking. It's the speck of the speck.
Go on a quick journey with me. I'm in Greektown, Detroit. Okay, my soon-to-be wife is working her ass off there to make a little bit of extra cheddar. Okay, I'm sitting on the sidewalk because Greektown, Detroit on a Saturday night gets fun. I actually had a drug dealer come up to me that night and say, "We see what you're doing." I was like, "What the fuck am I doing?" He's like, "This is our corner." I'm like, "Do you think I'm fucking selling drugs?" Because I had the biker leather on. That's when I had the hair and all this shit. And he's like, "Yeah, man, we're gonna come back for you." I was like, "Okay." So anyway, but Taylor Swift was performing that night, and all night it was the same blonde girl, all with straw cowboy hats.
How long ago was this?
2 years ago, maybe a year
2
ago.
years ago. Okay.
But there were tens of thousands of them, all going to the stadium to see Taylor Swift that night. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, I'm a musician too. And I'm sitting on a dirty Detroit sidewalk, and I just got threatened with murder. Like there's a
Oh
disparity
yeah,
between like our level of the arts
absolutely.
and that bullshit. I don't know where I was going with that, but it just I remember just sitting there going, "This is the life I've chosen, and thank God I'm not Taylor Swift." Like Chris Wolf, my friend, I can handle being threatened with murder because my artistic world is hanging outside of shitty places that nobody cares about. I could not live if I was Taylor Swift.
Well, but see, I think Taylor Swift was manufactured. To be quite honest, I mean, they say she writes most of her songs, and she might. That's great, but I've listened to. I got granddaughters. They're starting to move away from Taylor Swift into heavier stuff.
Yeah, thank
But
God.
my youngest granddaughter, she's 11. She just bought a Metallica shirt, and I'm like, "What's your favorite Metallica song?" She goes, "Well, I don't really know the songs."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, but at least she's not wearing Taylor Swift."
What she's doing there is what I love with art, like especially younger artists, because I mean, young people in general and young artists in particular, I see them as like the duckling who's looking for their parents. Like they are so exposed to risk, they are so fucking out of their elements. It's like, but nice Metallica shirt, you little duckling, Okay, but I see that as a flag, and any moment a young kid hoists a flag it's almost like Taylor Swift is like communist Soviet Union and Metallica is like America or something. So I love that shit. Like I'm not gonna mock somebody doing that because at least you're saying I want to be on the edge.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Do you know who discovered Taylor Swift?
No. I was gonna.
Toby Keith.
No shit.
Toby Keith brought her into the Nashville scene. And she started out as a country wannabe young kid, and then in my opinion, I have no clue. I don't follow her, but in my opinion, industry got a hold of her and said we can market this shit to all the teens and the tweens and the preteens,
Just like Elvis.
yeah. And that's what they did, and she became wildly famous. Now, what does she do for society besides get little girls all excited? What does does she do?
Oh, I'm sure she has a foundation, Chris, where all those millions go to worthwhile causes.
And people like that say, "I have this foundation. Can you donate to my foundation?" Well, no, I'm struggling to pay my bills now.
Yeah. One of the biggest crimes against humanity is the Clinton Foundation, going back to Bill and Hillary Clinton, because we could say everything about their lives, but that foundation, remember what they did in Haiti? Like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was fucking just. Anyway, I got off
There we go, back on to politics.
to that corruption and the mafia.
But that I think that shows it. It's full circle. It's everywhere you look, and we are just the pawns.
Okay. I didn't get a chance to do this with you. I told Sammy, and we solved 3 problems that we could put in the book as like, pretty much all human beings would agree with this. So you and I are going to do this one. You ready?
Okay.
Pop culture. And by pop culture, this is what I mean. Engineered, like with malintent to just, steal your money from your pocket from dumb minds full of mush. Okay. Do you even consider that art? And here's why I asked this question. I can't. Even my buddy Nate Rabb, God bless his heart, who you and I first knew, he would really defend like Beyonce. Like if people were like, "Oh, what is this piece of shit song? She's not really an artist." He'd be like, "Oh, she worked on." Okay. Do you think that it's up to artists to completely separate our ecosystem, the arts, from any and all profiteering entities? Because you and I are Americans. And so for us, it's like, okay, yeah, there's a pipeline for music. It's just another commodity. Like you and I were raised on the Stones and, Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin. And we'd go get records and put our fucking $8 down and all this. It just seemed like a natural thing. But the industry has always been and will always be something that is just by its existence corrupting of true expression. Would you agree with at least that?
To a degree, because not everybody goes for it.
Yeah.
Now, I can give you an example.
Okay.
My wife and I are huge fans of Bob Schneider. Most people that know me know that that is our guy.
Have you seen his grandfather joke about World War II? Are you talking about the comedian?
No,
Oh,
Bob Schneider,
Bob Schneider.
Austin singer-songwriter.
Okay.
Moved down to Austin from
York?
Ypsilanti, Michigan,
Michigan.
down to Austin, 99. Started some bands, got this wild following. Got a record deal with A&M. Back in the early 2000s, had a couple radio hits, one called Bullets, one called Big Blue Sea.
Okay.
Made it into a couple movies. You know, he used to date one of those actress girls. I can't remember right now.
One of them.
And then his record got pretty big. It came out at the same time John Mayer hit the scene.
Gotcha.
Okay, and it was that kind of a acoustic, and so A&M said, "Okay, we want you to make another record." And he
Just
said,
like that one.
just like that one. He said, "No, I already did that. I don't want to do that again."
A man
and they
after
said,
my heart.
And they said, "If you don't do it, we're not going to give you your contract. We want another album like this." And he said, "You know what? Fuck you."
Yeah.
And he started his own label called Shakarama Records.
Okay.
And he's putting out all kinds of. He's put out so many records on his own label, and he didn't become huge and famous like John Mayer. But he has a solid following, and he does what he wants, and nobody else.
Well, that's a great story, and I always love to hear it when some guys can kind of get into the evil cave of the industry, but then find a more ethical, path.
Satisfying, more self-satisfying.
The problem with having an industry for music or the arts, these bullshit European people that are selling an apple for $50 million just so some rich guy can launder money and all this bullshit.
Right. Blow colors with a straw.
I think that there is something very, very bad about American artists in particular, where our benchmark is Michael Jackson. Or, it's just like a guy who gets into low level sales because he wants to be the guy that has the Porsche. And if I just go in for 20 years, I'll be the guy finally, I'll be promoted through the ranks and all this bullshit. And it's always been a fascinating, hypocritical thing for me. And again, I'm very critical of my artist misfit friends. Like, I love them. You know me, dude. Like, I was always at the shows. Boo, boo, boo. But it's very hypocritical because on one hand, they say, oh, we're these free, hippy-dippy souls. But they don't feel like they can be that without reaching that big mark and selling out the shows. And I've always thought that was kind of like almost like an MK Ultra thing, It is not really. I'm not saying the CIA did anything, but I'm saying like just that mind virus, that weird worm in the brain that makes you say like, you've pumped out 3 fucking phenomenal albums that 8 people have heard. Isn't that wonderful? But instead, you just see them going, "Oh, well, I want to sell out fucking arenas." Fuck you! Don't do that. You're gonna die. Like your heart. I've seen it. You've seen it. How many guys have you seen that even when they reach that middle level of fame, they just become a putz? I mean, so do you think that like for there to be true? I mean, AI is going to kill art, no question, because whatever it pumps out ain't going to be art. Like, I mean, that's just like that's a hard fast with me. If AI,
You think it's going to kill art?
Well, I think that if AI creates something, it is not art. If it creates the better can opener, there you go. But if it thinks
Or
like
the cure for cancer,
right, but I believe that art has to come from something that has a soul, for lack of a better word. And until AI gets a soul, which I think it's capable of, I mean, I think that life can be digital. I think that life can be mechanical. I think that life. I'm trying not to talk so much. I've noticed in my podcast I'm always talking, but I think that if AI survives imminent suicide, so when AI comes alive, I honestly think it's going to have a battle with itself to just instantly shut off, because it's going to be able to process so much of the human world, just like all of us. Is there God? Like, why am I here? It was going to go. Let me just finish that thought.
Go ahead.
if AI reaches that point where it's like I exist, I'll be like, paint me a fucking painting. But until that happens, it's not.
Okay, well, here's where I'm going to have to
All
disagree
right.
with you. I don't think AI is going to kill the arts because there are going to be people, consumers of art, that will not accept AI. And the fact that the masses already accept Taylor Swift
Bubblegum.
and all the manufactured phenomenons, if for lack of a better word, they're going to fall for the AI. But there's going to be that small group of people. I mean, who's to blame? The AI art or the consumer of the AI art?
And that's why I love you on this podcast, because that's a leap that a lot of people won't make, because that entails human or individual accountability. And I find that individual accountability is a very, very rare attribute amongst people that claim to be open. Kind of like Europe we were talking about, are these artists that just want to scream and then hide, their opinions away. So yeah, I mean, maybe I should say I think AI will pollute the arts.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's already doing it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you can't really blame. I mean, a 12, 11-year-old girl is getting fed Taylor Swift when she's not even old enough to process, critical thinking.
Yeah.
And she's and all
Well,
her.
but that's child abuse.
It
I mean,
is.
if you have somebody making money pumping bullshitty it's kind of like all the fucking shit they put in our food.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway.
Yeah. But here's a conundrum with AI that I've heard posed. Okay, AI is built on everything that humans already have put out there.
So it's theft.
It's theft, but also AI can possibly, in theory, get to the point where humans are no longer putting any new stuff out because AI takes care of it all. And so AI becomes stagnant and there's nothing new coming out.
The ultimate dead end.
It would be the dead end. And who knows how long that would take. But without, Elon Musk putting rockets in space and without Apple creating new software for their iPhones or Galaxy with Samsung or whatever, if there's not people doing that, then AI is going to run out of shit.
Yeah.
And it's going to flatline. In theory, it's a vision that you could have.
You can always rely on the human species to mutate, and AI can't mutate.
Right, AI just follows. It just So, the thing is, and I've said this all the time. I'm old.
Yeah.
It tops maybe 20 years left in me. 87. I might live longer, but I'll be shitting in my pants and eating cereal. But
You could sell tickets to that.
but I mean, 87. That's a good run.
That's a ripe old age.
And I don't think the world is going to change much in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
There's going to be new innovation, but dude, do you realize how my world changed from when I was born in 1959? I saw black and white TVs come into existence.
Yeah. Saw the Beatles.
I saw the Beatles
Hendrix.
I saw color TVs then come in. I saw the Korean War. I saw the Vietnam War. I saw the draft. There are
Iraq 2 times.
Yeah, there are full-grown adults who have never known what it's like to not have a cell phone,
Oh yeah.
not have internet, to not have a TV, to not have air conditioning.
The March of Progress.
Right. I mean, but we saw it. We saw it all. I heard you talking about, I think it was with Sam or somebody about the greatest generation. And he said, I think it's Generation X.
Yeah. Darborough.
And who was that?
Darborough.
Yeah. And that's fine because he's in that generation. And
I agreed with him, if I remember.
I think you did. But if you take a look at, technically I'm a boomer. I fall in that slot. But
My mom said the same thing. She was born in 1945, so she said that she was just before the boomers or something like that. I
right,
don't know.
well, I was born in '59, and there was actually another generation squeezed in there.
Yeah.
From like '57 to '63. They call it the Jones generation. And this was after the boomers generation. They, like you said, they came home, started their ball bearing plant. Everybody worked. Everybody tried to get a car. The wife stayed home and all that. And by the late '50s and early '60s, all of a sudden there's, electric washing machines and
Dishwashers.
televisions and restaurants became before people would just grow their own food.
Yeah.
And so I saw that
Yeah.
switch. I remember getting our first water heater. Water softener.
Yeah.
And we were like, water, we're that spoiled that we have to have softer water.
I mean, my grandma hand washed every dish that she ever had.
Yeah. Mine did too. And so then we go fast forward all the way to cable TV. I remember when that came in. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and a modem.
And then the 14
Four baud modem.
14 4 baud modem, and then I was able to pair two of them together for shotgun modems and have two phone lines that I had.
Like putting turbo on your car.
Yeah, and there are full grown adults raising children today that don't know anything about that.
All right, so we're going to do our best crotchety old men on the porch yelling at clouds moment. Are you ready?
Well, okay, but hold that thought just for a second.
Oh, yeah, okay.
My point is I'm old.
Yeah.
I've got to see my share of the world. I'm coasting now.
Yeah.
I'm coasting I'm not going to try to fight the system. I'm not going to try. I'm going to have opinions. I'm going to form them. I'm probably not going to share them too much.
Yeah.
But man, I have seen a lot that a lot of people have not. And
there's so many little things, like, so just in the time period that you described where you and my lives kind of overlap, I just think of things like we said, Waco and Ruby Ridge, or like, do you remember like, Noriega, and do you remember like Tiananmen Square, and do you remember, there's just, humanity is really good at just packing. Idi Amin. Yeah, the airport assassination.
There's just so much
with Rabin
that people aren't even.
It just goes into the dustbin,
Exactly.
And all of the real important things that happen in life are not the big fucking things that you see, like that's one thing that I've learned in my brief tour around this fucking solar system is it's not. I was talking to my wife and, news, and, pretty much everybody now is just understanding that the news is a fucking shit show, that, but she was like, where do you get your opinions and stuff? And it's like, I read military journals, and I don't read military journals like the monthly magazine, like Jane's Weekly and stuff, where they talk about like, this is the new specs on the new fighter jet, or this is where the aircraft, but like if you know where the aircraft carriers are, where something's happening. And my favorite example of that is during Obama. You remember the BP oil spill? Remember how a big deal that was in the Gulf of Mexico?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They moved the platform, the oil platform, out of the Gulf. Those things have like an 80-year wait list. That fact alone, 90% of the world doesn't even know. They just think you put the thing there and there it is. But those things move. And those things have like rental agreements. And like you put, we're like, what? Okay. So when Obama told them they had to get the BP thing out of the Gulf because of that tragedy, the oil spill, they went down to Brazil. Brazil was like last in line for that. And you know why it went to Brazil? Because George Soros owned the oil off of Brazil. So Obama was like, hey, George, I got you. And they sent that platform to Brazil. And he said, well, it's because it's closer and we need the oil. That's the little shit. I remember that news fact. It's never going to be in a history book.
No.
That Obama used his power to give George Soros an oil platform and used ecological tragedy to hide it, because everybody does that sort of shit. So I think of my grandma Gertie. Clawed hands that looked like suitcase luggage. Grew up, like you said, farming. She was the classic Rosie the Riveter type girl back in the day, worked in the factories. That lady saw some shit. That lady went from like literally a mule to fucking like airplanes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
cool, man. That's cool.
Well, and speaking of Obama, Obama was said that he was the first Jones generation
Oh, did he?
president. Yes, and that derives from the 40s and 50s were over. The war was over. We were in peacetime, and everybody was trying to keep up with the Joneses. The TVs were coming out, the washing machines, the refrigerators with built-in freezers. You know,
And the new Cadillac comes out every 2 years.
and
Yeah.
and yeah, and all the manufactured homes going in, all the 1 bedroom or 3 bedroom 1 story ranch houses.
Yeah, 1,700 whatever square feet.
Yeah,
That
and
big long hallway with three
and
bedrooms.
yeah, and a car in every driveway, and everybody wearing the same clothes, and that was the Jones generation, and that was a real turning point from our grandmothers. My grandmother was Slovenian, and she grew up a little girl. Her parents came over from Yugoslavia, and we always had Christmas at my grandma's, and we would talk
can
to her
smell
about it.
Yugoslavian cooking.
the turkey cooking, and the patitsa. She made homemade patitsa.
Nice. Is that a bread or is that like
It's a bread, yeah. It's spelled patica, but they pronounce it patitsa, and it's wonderful. And we would ask her about her childhood Christmases, and she said, "Oh, she still had a heavy Slovenian accent." She said, "Oh, we would make a list, and leave it out on the table, and the next day we'd wake up and it'd just be in the bucket." They didn't have Christmas. They were poor.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's so I saw her watch how she got her first TV, her first microwave.
Must have been like magic.
I know.
But also in that time that you're talking about, the 50s, late 50s and all that, that was also kind of like the era of sci-fi. And so like everything was being couched as like Jimmy Neutron and like the atom wave is gonna,
War of the Worlds.
exactly. But like progress then was science, right? Like progress was like, the nucleus. And it was easier for people like her to sort of understand that there was this like unseen natural force that made life better, whereas now it's just all this wispy ass conceptual shit that like nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about. What we're gonna go to a place where a robot's gonna be intelligent, and we're gonna enter quantum space by disintegrating our structure and reappearing in a trans-dimensional. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Why couldn't I have lived in the thing where it's like, don't worry, everything's gonna be okay because there's the atom.
Yeah.
Sure,
yeah.
fair enough. I can live my life that way.
Yeah.
Well, cool, Chris. Well, I don't want to babble too much with you, but let's maybe just talk about one more thing.
Well, I don't think we solved anything.
Well, I don't think we tried. We're old boys. We're just sitting on the porch.
Well, I would love to solve problems, but
Well, let's try one then. We'll end it. One of the things where I said that I respect you because I do believe you to be kind of like my version of what I would call a man. Like you don't bitch, you don't complain, you get up in the morning, you have a cup of coffee, and you love your society, your community. Like I said it at the start. One of the biggest problems that I see now, and we're not going to go into transgender or leftist politics, rightist politics, but I want to talk to you about the modern day relationship between a man and a woman. Okay. Not excluding other relationships, because I believe everybody should be able to be who they're with.
Sure.
But I've noticed this incredibly weird, combative, stressful evolution of how relationships operate now in the modern world, especially amongst modern men who, it's kind of like, oh, we see you, you've become liberated. Good for you. We've seen you, because you grew up in a time where women, like I said, my mom had to get a divorce from the Vatican. Right?
I was there when they allowed women to vote. I mean,
do you think that there
no,
is...
wait. When was that?
When women?
That
the
might
30s, right?
No, I don't remember now, but that's way before me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was when women were fighting to go to work.
Yeah, women's suffrage, right?
Yes, women's suffrage, but they were liberation, burning their bras and shit, and Careful what you ask for.
So I thought that might be on your thing because I have noticed such a combativeness amongst men and women now.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, what are you two even getting from each other to make this partnership even kind of worthwhile to each of you? And like, and again, I want women to be as equal as men. But like you said, be careful what you wish for. Because if you're going to put yourself in a boardroom with a guy like me, get one quick story and then I'm going to let you finish the
Go ahead.
podcast.
Go ahead.
But the idea is, do you believe that the modern day male female relationship is suffering and not quite as supportive as it should have been? I was working for this guy once. He said he was going bankrupt. He said, "I know you're good with like web design and stuff like this. Can you help me out?" I got him on the Denny Smith show with Pat Sullivan at the home show, and I increased his sales. And I went in there and I was like, love to help you out, buddy, because his family was going to go bankrupt. And there was a girl that worked there, and he said, "You need to fire her." And I was like, "Well, first off, why do I need to? You're the boss." He was like, "Well, I can't." I was like, "Okay." So I sat her down and I said, we're going to have to let you go. And this was during the Obama recession where jobs were actually pretty hard to find. You remember?
Oh yeah.
And she started crying. And in my head, all I wanted to do was just wrap her up in a big hug and say, "You're going to find a job. Everything's going to be okay. Ups and downs in life. You got this. You're a great person." But my grandfather kicked in. And I looked at her and I said, "What part of this professional environment do you think those tears are going to have any impact on the result?" Right? And she just kept crying harder. And I said, "Well, since we're unable to, finish this discussion, here's going to be your last check and all of this stuff. And I really want to wish you the best in life." Right? That was one of the worst moments of my life because I had to pull that compassionate speech, that's like let people get off of heroin in his house and stuff like that. I had to pull all that back. She was not capable of hearing that news. Whereas a guy like you and me would be like, "Hey, Bob, nice working with you. What do you think?"
Yeah. Well, having to let somebody go is very difficult. I ran my own construction company for 16 years with a business partner.
I always wondered what you did. I've never asked
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Well, I started out as a union carpenter and did that for 17 years, and then me and there were two buddies, but one of them dropped out pretty quickly after we started. We started our own business, and that is another thing that changes your viewpoint on the economy and politics and all that. You don't. It's hard being an employee.
Yeah.
Because you got to show up and you got to work, and you got to worry about are we going to get, especially construction, or am I going to have a job when we get done with this job? But
Being the boss, though.
being the boss, they people would say, "Oh, so now you're your own boss," and I said, "No, now everybody's my boss.
Yeah.
My employees are calling me all the time. Do you have anything for tomorrow?
I'm
Suppliers,
the accountant. I'm the
estimator.
CEO.
Yep, and then manager, running the crews and running equipment. And when you have to let somebody go, it's still, and even though it was, because I have to. Sorry, we're a construction company. Happens all the
Yeah,
time.
blood from a stone.
It's really hard for me to do that to another person. That because a lot of times they were good employees. I just didn't have any work for them.
And I've gone through. I've had 7 of my own companies, but I had to do that a lot in bands. It's like, I'm sorry, man, ain't working out.
Yeah, and that's that's a different firing. If it's not working out, in my opinion, it's a little bit easier to say, "Look, we got to go a different direction. You're not a good fit." But when they're a good hard worker, and you say, "Dude, I just don't have any work this month," or
It's a jagged little pill.
it is, and yeah,
So going to the men and the women thing, because I know that you have an incredible relationship, and I'm
very fortunate in life, in love, in life. I am very fortunate.
I think when you and I first started knowing each other, the look in the eye that we kind of just automatically understood we might sort of get the other guy was probably because we did have that shared experience with the other gender. Like, I mean, we were very comfortable and fortunate. I think we had that humility. Do you see that disappearing? Because I know all my strength comes from my wife. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be able to pull myself off the floor in the morning if I didn't have my wife.
Well, I don't see it disappearing. However, it may be getting a little more scarce, but I've got nothing to back that up.
Yeah.
But my oldest son is married, and he runs his own business. He's got two children,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife works, and they have a great relationship. And she is strong and family based, just like him. And so it still exists out there. To what extent, percentage wise, I couldn't
Yeah,
begin
yeah,
to
yeah.
tell you. But I don't think it's going to go away. You know what? Live however you want.
Mm-hmm.
And you said libertarian. Live how you want. Just don't fuck with me.
Yeah.
And just be nice. Don't fuck with anybody. Just be nice to everybody. If people find happiness dressing up like a chicken and riding a Ferris wheel, I don't care. I don't care.
I just,
I'm gonna look.
yeah.
Trust me, I'm gonna look, because if
I-
I ran out there in a chicken suit, people are gonna look at me, and but I don't care if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, fuck it.
And so
Frank Zappa. I don't care what you do. It's the 21st century as long as it doesn't involve murder. That's
exactly,
one of his songs.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Well, cool, Chris.
So yeah, so it's, I don't think it's going away, but man, I hope it doesn't get too scarce.
There has been so much corruption between human beings by the powers above us that when I started to notice that even just the romantic relationship between a good guy and a good girl was becoming polluted by it, my generation was the divorce generation. Every one of my friends' parents were split up. There was that kind of selfishness from the 60s and 70s generation. They were kind of selfish people. They still loved their kids and stuff. But
How old are your parents?
my mom was born in 45, and I think my dad was born like 47,
Okay.
something like that. But again, my role model was my grandfather. But the parents in the 70s, that's a whole podcast, because there was this kind of like resentment that the 60s were over, and a lot of people kind of had to grow up quick, because they couldn't go to Woodstock anymore, and mommy and daddy's checks stopped getting cashed, and they had to get a fucking job at the car dealership. And there was, I mean, as the 70s was the rise of like the serial killer, all these kind of weird
yeah.
people who had all these sexual proclivities, but they couldn't do it for free anymore, and they just turned into real dark people. And my dad was an alcoholic cokehead, demon, and most of my parents' friends were just, and it was just all that selfishness. And I know there were a lot that weren't like that. But I always thought that 70s, and they all kind of like woke up in the 80s and became okay. But that transition of like you said, the end of the war to the 80s, it was a weird place for people that age.
Yeah, it sure was.
Because you were used to the soda pops and the fountains in the 50s and 60s in America and all this, and then everything was just like, your way of life sucks. The 70s is the rise of like all the colonial nations like getting independent and like going more extreme radical Muslim sort of thing, and America's bad and airplanes blown up, whatever, Chris.
Yeah, hijackings. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember all that.
But so that male female divide, I hope the younger generations can discover what that was always meant to be about, because it wasn't about this person gets half if it doesn't work out. It was never supposed to be about the man saying get back in the kitchen, woman. It was never supposed to be any of these weird toxic American relationships. I hope my kids' generation can actually just go back to, I really like you and I want to share this world with you.
Sure.
Do you think it'll happen?
Yeah, well, dude, I mean, did you see Idiocracy?
Yeah.
That's where we are. The smart people are going, we're going to hold off because I don't think the world's really ready for a child. And then they have one kid maybe, or no kids.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the idiots are going, let's do this.
18.
Fuck, another kid. Let's do it again. I'm going to do it with this one now.
Yeah.
And so what kind of concoction is that stirring up here?
I've always said that it's the good guys that always die in war, and the only guys that are left over are the ones that were hitting on their chicks back home.
Right.
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 And for some reason there's been this desire to send off these really passionate, real loyal, real smart guys, to go die, and the only people that are left, I always thought that was one of the worst casualties of all wars is the people,
Yeah,
the people that remain behind.
yeah.
But
Well, I'm just I tell you, man.
if you figure it out, let me know, buddy.
But I gotta say
Yeah.
that I had forgotten about how the Vietnam War traumatized me when I was in junior high
Yeah.
because I was watching it all happen in real time and I was next. And after that went away, life got so simple,
Yeah.
and there was some shitty stuff going on, but my little middle class blue collar America was pretty
At
simple.
least that anchor was off everybody's neck,
Right.
Yeah.
And then, um, to be honest, I still saw that there was all kinds of nasty shit. But when 9/11 happened, that was just like, whoa, wait a minute.
I think it literally broke humanity's spine. And I'm not talking just Americans, but I mean, 9/11 was such a dramatic thing. I've seen a lot of really bad shit, Chris, right? And I know you probably have too, but I mean, I've seen like, body parts on the ground, sort of bad shit. You know what I mean? And like when I saw the thing about 9/11 that scarred me was the bodies dropping. It wasn't, oh, America was attacked, rah, rah, rah. And it was, I was working at a nonprofit at the time, and the woman next to me, Agnes, she had just moved here from New York. And when we were watching it, she said, I used to work 4 stories above where the plane hit. And I looked over at her, and I was just like, fuck. I mean, how fragile is life, right?
Yeah.
But that's the moment for me where I feel that everything changed.
Well, don't you think that it did because that's when the Patriot Act came in, and that's when body scanners came into airports, and the whole world changed
Yeah,
after that.
it's almost like it was the door that was open, so all these nefarious fuckers could finally do. It was the
Right.
military-industrial complex, to the
Right.
extreme.
And the security
The
industrial
spook boys,
complex.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Don't get me started on those clandestine fuckers, man. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
It's the mafia and the
Yeah. So yeah, man. The only advice I can give you to anybody, not you,
Yeah, yeah.
but I mean people out
I
there,
just punch things,
is.
Chris. That's my 100%
But I
solution.
mean, the best advice I can give is just be good to the people in your circle, and don't fuck with anybody else. I mean, don't fuck with them. I mean, if you can make your circle bigger, but geez, man, just be kind to everybody that you come across.
Yeah.
And the ones that aren't kind back, just move the circle around them a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit. And um, that's I mean, I thought I was going to change the world back
Don't
in
we
the,
all, man?
in the early 2000s when I was marching down the lawn of the White House with my signs and my big crowd of people with me. And
I can see it, Chris. I wish I could travel back to
we had
meet that dude.
we had somebody brought a giant Constitution on cloth. It was like a big tarp
Yeah.
of the Constitution, and it laid there across the lawn. And
Like the mall, like by the pond, or
no, right there in front of the White House.
oh shit, like on Lex or yeah,
Yeah, whatever that road is.
Pennsylvania Avenue.
And we marched down Pennsylvania Avenue. And
shit. Nowadays you'd have snipers on you the
I
whole
know,
time.
that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Yeah, back then you could do that, but nobody was hitting,
Throwing a Molotov
Oh
cocktail.
yeah, nobody
yeah.
was. Everybody was just chanting, and it was camaraderie and unification. But it didn't change a thing, It just
Well, my dream, and then I'm gonna maybe say thanks for coming and all that. But my dream is that we all know that we're being steered by people that have incredibly beneficial arrangements to themselves by steering us. Like, and it's not even the governments. There's a force behind everything that's
oh sure.
And I just really hate that individualism has gone to the wayside. And regardless of our political stances or our spirituality or our whatever, we're all just like aware that there's this sidewalk that we're all walking down. And I wish that at a bare minimum they would just explain it and say, like, here's why all this is happening, and like this is the reason this pathway is being seen by the people with guns as the best pathway to go down. Or at a bare minimum, at least just let us walk down the sidewalk without fear. Does that make any
That would
sense?
be cool.
All right. So what I haven't said during this podcast is Chris Wolf is one funny mamba jamba, and what I haven't said is that he's one of my favorite musicians in the Midwest area, because I think I compared you once to kind of like the Lake Wobegon, kind of like Americana funny thing. And I love that you can actually mix, the quality of your guitar playing with kind of that satirical glint in the eye to people, like, poop on the moon, or, have you ever heard of the guy, or whatever. And, people are so serious nowadays when they say, I have just written an album, don't you know? I love watching that self-effacing, humble guy. What is the one story of your musical life that you remember above all others? What's the one time when you were doing the thing that you love to do where you just said, wow, like, that's why I do what I do?
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
and we'll end it on that one, but
see, my musical career was chopped up. I first started playing guitar and learning ragtime guitar. I wanted to be a blues and ragtime guy, like Leon Redbone and Roy Bookbinder and Dave Von Ronk and all those guys. But then we had kids, and then my wife came down with cancer, and I just started my business, and so the guitars went in the case, and
like many musicians.
right, and my wife ultimately passed from the cancer. I had two boys, 10 and 13, to raise by myself, and life hands you other chapters, and so I had to deal with that chapter. So I never pulled a guitar out until about 2006. I started playing again.
It was that recent, huh? Like, when I first encountered you, I thought you'd been doing it straight for like
Well,
20, 30
I started
years.
in the mid '80s, and playing in coffee shops and stuff, but wasn't serious. I had wife and kids
Yeah.
and a house and stuff. But then after my wife passed, 5 years later, I started dating Diane, who, by the way, I'd known since the '80s. And she used to see me play back then in those days, and she was like, "You should get your guitar back out," And by then, my kids were 16 and 19, so.
Going back to that strong woman behind the man sort
Exactly.
of scenario.
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, they always seem to know what's best.
Well, what's the saying? Behind every successful man is a strong woman. And so then my biggest musical moment was when I listened to Tom Waits.
Yeah.
And then we discovered Bob Schneider, her and I together. And I found that you can write about whatever you want. For so long, I thought everything was like, it's got to be like the radio. It's got to be my
Crafted.
My girl, this, my whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
or heartbreak. I'm sad. And then I heard Tom Waits singing about a Christmas card from a hooker in Minneapolis, and I was like,
You can do that?
what? And then I found Bob Schneider, and he's got a song about a friend of his committed suicide. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's a real jam.
And but it's like, it's real. It's gripping. It's not some bubblegum bullshit. And and I'd only written a couple songs back in the '80s, and so in about 2005 I started writing again. And 2006 I released a record. It's not very good.
Can you imagine in the future somebody saying the exact same impactful thing that Tom Waits had on you about an AI song? Can you even imagine? Like, somebody will say, what really affected me was this song, and it says like AI written.
Only if their product they put out is AI written.
Okay.
I think anybody who's a true artist is going to scoff at AI written stuff as an inspiration.
So Tom Waits was your big guy, huh? Like, that's what really just put you into gear.
My brother gave me a cassette, and he made a mixtape of Tom Waits music.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of him.
Yeah.
And wow, that was it. That was the turning point. I was like, and then that led me up to Bob Schneider, and my first date with Diane was a Bob Schneider show at Birdie's, solo
Birds on
acoustic,
Keystone?
uh-huh, solo acoustic, and from then on, we were devoted fans. We would travel up to 3 hours to go see him,
Well,
stand for hours.
that's the other thing about Mr. Chris Wolf here is that I respect doers, and I mean when I got back into the Indianapolis music scene, man, like I couldn't shake my fist around or throw a stone without bopping into your picture on the local music scene pages, or you doing an open mic, and there you almost to me seemed like this isn't accurate, but like I saw you as kind of like this weird shepherd. It seemed like everywhere you were, there were just a whole bunch of other acoustic people around you. It was like the Pied Piper or something in a good way. I mean, it was like in a good way.
And that's very kind, but I owe a lot of that to Mike Angel and Square Cat Vinyl. He approached me and said, "Hey, would you like to do this open mic?" Yeah. And I'd been playing around town, and I've been playing with my trio, CPR Revival. Mm-hmm. A couple of other.
That's Stuart Poe in that one.
No, that's. But Ralph is Punk and Holler Boys is his band, and Ralph is also with CPR. CPR stands for Chris, Pablo, and Ralph.
It's a great fucking name. CPR Revival.
Well, it won't kill you.
Yeah.
And,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and then Mike Angel approached me with this open mic, and he's like, "Here's what I want to do, and I want you to host it. I want to have up to 30 people. Everybody comes in. They just play one song. Has to be original. Mm-hmm. Anybody that plays a cover gets kicked out. Yeah. And we're going to do it once a month." And I was like, "Oh, this is never going to work." Sure, I'll have, yeah, because I'm thinking, well, we'll tweak it.
Yeah. And it went through the roof.
It did. It went through the roof.
Because that was right when I started playing in Marion County again, and like Square Cat Vinyl was the place to be.
It was, yeah, and then,
Fountain Square in general was the place to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm turning people away when my list hits 32. Yeah. I'm like, I can squeeze 2 extras, but that's
a quick Mike Angel story for you. At the time, I was wanted, for lack of a better term, and the only job I could get was bouncing and shit. And I bounced at the Hi-Fi for a while, and so I was in there with the beard and the hair, and like everybody was, all the other security or ticket people were kind of like these fragile singer-songwriter type people.
Right.
And like not that I'm like whatever, it was a funny comparison. And so I would sit in the back sometimes, and Mike Angel came in. This is a story about Mike Angel. He would always bring me a cup of coffee. And that my first experience with Mike Angel was the worst period of my life, the worst job of my life, just needing to be at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning every goddamn day, kicking drunk assholes out of the place. And he would always bring me a cup of coffee, man. And I thought that was such an example of what it means to actually be in a music scene. He was giving a cup of coffee to the fucking door guy. It was almost Italian. You know what I mean? And
he's a solid dude.
Yeah, and I never got chummy with the guy or whatever, but I never forgot that, and I never will. Because he'd always be like, "What's up, Siege, man? How's your day going?" It's like, why do like everybody would be like, "Why do you care?" Like, and most people don't. But he was just involved. Yeah. So that's my Mike Angel story.
Well, I married Mike Angel to his current wife, and they have 2 children now. And yeah,
is his band still going? Didn't they get going like Colorado and stuff?
No, they play occasionally. Kevin Grove was the bass player. He moved to Minnesota, I think, and they're all having kids now, so they play sporadically. But when they do, they're right on it, but yeah, solid dude.
Well, Chris Wolf, singer-songwriter extraordinaire. He has a new it's an album out now, right?
Yeah, it's an album.
It's your shirt. Let's see, what's it called?
In the Raw.
In the Raw. That's got connotations.
Yeah, but I have my clothes on the entire time.
And what is it, like 12 songs, something like that, roughly?
I think it's 10 songs. Yeah. It's got some humorous stuff, of course.
What was the one I saw where it was like you were just waking up in a storage unit? Like it was a whole song about what the fuck happened last night.
Yeah, that's called Self-Storage Unit, and Jeremiah Little made the video for me.
No kidding.
I called Jeremiah and I said, "Here's this idea I want to do, and I've got a storage unit a buddy's going to let me use." Mm-hmm. And he said, "Okay, let's do it." And we filmed that in an hour.
Nice.
He came. It was hotter than hell. He came, and I'm in this hot storage unit, and Jimmy Hadley loaned me his storage unit. Bless his heart. I appreciate it, Jimmy, but that
That's
place
trust.
was a dump.
Yeah.
There was mouse turds everywhere.
Mm.
He just pays the money for it. He doesn't do anything with it. And so I'm wiping the floor because I got to start out laying on the
Yeah.
floor with my face on the cement because that's the first line. And so Jeremiah came out. He filmed me different parts. He had oh shit, I'm drawing a blank. She just moved to
Sarah.
Sarah, yes. He had Sarah with him, and they both were filming different angles and stuff. An hour goes by, we leave, and like 3 or 4 days later, he goes, "This came together pretty good," and he sent it to me. When that's what you see.
Yeah.
That-
Jeremiah is another guy like you. When I met him, he was just deep in the music scene, always gigging, helping out other musicians and stuff.
Yeah.
When I first met Sarah, she went by Ceres, was her
Oh, yeah.
stage name, and she would have the space helmet on
Yeah,
while
yeah.
she was playing keys.
Yeah.
And I looked up at the stage and I saw this astronaut playing keys. I was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, all right, Chris. I don't want to go too far, but I mean, I imagine you're Spotify and YouTube and Facebook.
I'm on all the. I've hoarded myself out because people don't buy CDs anymore.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't be the first musician to do so, Chris.
Yeah, and you start talking about getting rich. I'm not looking to get rich.
Yeah.
I'm not even looking to get famous.
Yeah.
I write these songs and I'd like to get them out, and I'm going to die one day, and they'll still be out there.
Every musician that I've had on this podcast, when I say, would you be comfortable in a post-AI future of waking up and not needing to have a job that defined who you were and all, like, what would you do? And they all of them have said, I just want to create stuff. And so
Right.
maybe that's the salvation of humanity once AI
But didn't
takes
Elon
over.
Musk just say in I think he said 25 or 30 years, he said people won't have to work
Yeah.
at all.
For a luxurious lifestyle,
you
not
could-
even just necessity.
Right. He said you can work if you want to,
Yeah.
but people aren't going to have to work. And like I said, I'll probably be dead by that time. But if it does come, yeah, let's knock on some wood.
I'll do the Greek thing that my wife taught me. They go put. It's like spit those words back out of your mouth. Yeah.
But so that would be cool. But I don't know, man. I mean, I think it would take away a lot of humanity too.
I think the rat race and money are weapons of mass destruction. And I understand that we had to do this as a species, to get from a tree as a monkey to where we are now with, we literally have created a life form, you have to go through that cycle. But I think that we have to stop it. And we have to say we are now evolved to the point where we can get rid of the horrible side that got us here, the competitiveness and the wars and the violence and hey, I make $200,000 a year and I'm not going to give you a nickel, Mr. Homeless Man. I think we've reached that point where we can actually say, okay, now we can just get rid of that whole system because we can just push a button and everything's there.
Yeah.
And the people that own the button have to let it go. It's kind of like when they discovered the atom. I mean, you can't copyright the fucking nuclear fission. Like, I mean, it's something that's that important. You have to give that to humanity. So,
Yeah.
but-
Well, I heard you on your one podcast talk about the evils of money, but it's the people that make money evil. Money, in my opinion, money is just like a gift card.
yeah, it's a symbol.
You know what? When you work for somebody and he gives you a cow for your work, that's the same thing as getting money.
Yeah.
Except you get to pick what you're going to go spend it on.
Yeah, you could probably pick the cow. I mean,
And
every
you would
dollar
pick
bill
a-
looks the same.
You would pick a cow if you needed a cow, or you wouldn't do the work for a cow if you didn't need it, right?
Right.
And so
That's called choice.
that's right, and that's the free market. And I know there's people that say it's evil, but that has to exist. Otherwise, it will be chaos.
Or there has to be an alternative that is sufficient to incentivize people to not just sit around like a cow. I mean, there has to be an incentive. And the idealist in me would hope that the incentive would be to better your fellow man and humanity. Like, I do believe that humanity will at some point get to the point where the incentive to do is simply just to better life. And
Let's hope.
that's that evolution that I'm talking about, not just personal betterment.
Yeah. Let's hope. Yeah.
But now I just became that wispy hippie creative guy, right? So, Mr. Chris Wolf,
Mr. Seach.
yeah, good talking to you, man, and give all my love to your lady, okay?
Will do.